how do we liberate the future from domination by the present?
Yeah.
What role should you and I and everybody listening to this be playing in taking care of the future? Because something that's happened since the end of the Second World War, which is that our moral circle has extended across space. So instead of just thinking in terms of our city or our nation, we think on much more on a global level. That's how humanitarian aid and development aid have emerged since the Second World War, because we care for people on the other side of the world much more than we did in the past. But what we haven't done, it really is extend our moral vision to the future, extending the circle not just across space, but through time.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who, is has been subject to this as much as anybody else. I mean, back in the 1990s, I spent a lot of time in Guatemala. Actually, was where I did my PhD, and I was working on interviewing indigenous people and members of the economic elite. And I wasn't really thinking 100 years ahead. I was just thinking of the present moment. The fact that Guatemala, when I was there, was at the end of a civil war. 200,000 indigenous Mayan people had been killed. And how can you try and create peace and justice in that kind of society? But at that time, I was never really thinking very long term in the way I thought about politics, for example. And in fact, after I did my PhD, I went and became a teacher, a lecturer in political science, and apparently an expert in democracy. And it never once occurred to me, this is true, in 10 years, it never once occurred to me that we disenfranchise future generations in the same way that women and slaves have been disenfranchised throughout history. In other words, future generations are given no political rights or representation. They have no influence in the marketplace. They're kind of written out of history.
Yeah.
And written out of the present.